I was introduced to Arts Etobicoke about 10 years ago when I first moved to Etobicoke, and I just started going to the school nearby. And I think someone at school mentioned that, oh, there's an after school program right around the corner for arts and culture. And being a child who was always put in arts classes, my mom was like, this is definitely something you're doing. Um, so that's how I start, that's how I journey at Arts Etobicoke again. And over time, well, one day my sister was like, hey, there's a job posting. I don't have the time to do it, but I think you should totally apply. And I've been here ever since, and I love it. When we first started this project, it was July of 2020, so still very amidst COVID. There were a lot of COVID restrictions. We couldn't really meet people in person for interviews, so we resorted to Zoom. We conducted our interviews through Zoom for about a year and a half. And then as COVID restrictions started lifting, we started going out in the parks, we started doing tabling outside our storefront. And that's when we realized that when you give the people a little more accessible format of doing the interviews, such as our paper interviews or our little would you rathers or just our short surveys, there's a larger audience that can participate in them because there's no restriction, such as technology, as it can be a really hard thing for either really young children or seniors. And I think that's when we started getting a lot of data from children, seniors, youth, and parents. When we changed from Zoom to paper, we also realized that the data that we were getting and what people were talking about also changed. Whereas through Zoom, there were a lot of parents talking about how they wanted to get a lot of art activities and family activities to do or in the parks or in the streets, street festivals with their children to get them more involved. When we started doing paper art, when we started doing data collection through paper or through just talking to people face to face in on our park parties or in our movies in the park, we realized that there was a lot of other art activities that we just didn't realize could also be introduced and to the younger population as it has not been introduced to them previously. For example, something as crocheting. I know that my grandparents and my parents or something were really interested in it and used to do it a lot growing up, but that's not a very popular art type in my generation. So I think that gave us an idea that yeah, this is a new art form that we could introduce to the community. The last thing I think also made a big difference in who we were talking to or what we were talking about was the location we were in. When we first started this project in July 2020, when we first started data collecting in July 2020, we were focused, I would say, more on the South Etobicoke area where our office is located. Then over the last 2 years, we started moving towards the north end of Etobicoke. So I'd say the South Etobicoke, from the interviews I've had and the people that I've talked to, I think there was a huge interest in getting their children involved. And there was a huge impact of how can we do something as a family? What are some art activities that, I can bring my toddler in? And what is something that me, my husband, and my child can do together? But as we moved to North Etobicoke, I realized there was a huge population that wanted to do arts for seniors. Being South Asian myself, I know that North Etobicoke has a growing South Asian population, and also having grandparents that don't really have the best communicating skills when it comes to English. It's hard for them to come out it's hard for them to come out, step out of their house and talk to people, interact with people. So I think art is something that they can just do and interact with people that way, even if it's not verbal, they can show their art to each other. And I know that a lot of families in North, even when we were at just these last few months, we had a pop-up gallery at Albion Mall. And when we had a lot of seniors doing the art activities, other like around, I'd say 30 to 40-year-olds or seniors themselves came up and said, how can we also join this? Or how can I get my parents to join this activity? Because I want them to step out of the house and I want them to interact with people because I think staying at home will impact their mental health and their physical health over time. I've previously said that, an interview is more about just the questions itself. It's about the person who we're interviewing. When we, over the last few years, I think what I've realized interviewing people is that it's more about building a connection with them. It's more about getting to know them. It's more about getting to know who they are, what they like to do, what they do in their free time, hearing stories about their grandchildren or their children if that's what they want. And inferencing between those lines, what are some art activities that this person might be interested in if that's something they haven't explicitly told us? Or even if we move away from the arts, it's about just making connection with community members. I think what I most loved about those interviews is that within that 20-minute time frame that we always kept for all our interviews, it really gave a chance for me and the interviewee to build a connection. It helped us get to know each other. It helped us get to truly, they would ask me, I would ask them questions, they would ask me questions, like, oh, I just shared this. Why don't you tell me something about yourself? Um, so it was just a nice way to know that, it was a nice way to connect with each other and without any outside disruption, without any distractions. It truly gave us 20 minutes to just talk about arts and culture and get to know what they really wanted to see in the future. Yes, I think this project has truly instilled a sense of community, even though like COVID destroyed a lot of that so quickly. But I think this project really helps to bring that together. And I felt that way, and I sure hope that the people we were interviewing felt the same way. I would say I've learned two really important things as a story coordinator that I would like to share with anyone who may be interested in conducting a similar project themselves. The first thing is that people want to talk to you. You might not realize it, but there are so many people who are just interested in building that connection with you, even if it doesn't mean strictly about the arts. I think that's something you can introduce yourself, but the main aspect of, or the main fear of people might not want to talk to us is, I think it's shattered really quickly as soon as you get into the project and you realize, actually, there's a lot of people that want to talk to us. The second point I would say is it's important to learn how to put things together. And that's something that we were taught in our training 4 years ago, that instead of asking people a strict question and getting that, exact answer that you want, you can ask people a couple of questions around that area or around the topic that you hope to get an answer for, and they'll eventually lead you there. Being someone who really enjoys connecting with my community and getting to know the people in my community, this project has been so rewarding because not only did it help me get to know my community members better, it helped me help our organization as well. I think for our community members, this project gave them a chance to tell us about their favorite hobbies, what they want to share with the communities, art activities or cultural activities that they would want to participate in living in Etobicoke. And, really allowed them to have a voice in what they saw around them. And on the flip side, for us at Arts Etobicoke, it helps us really plan out what activities we should offer the community, and it helps us gives us confidence that the programs that we do offer will be well received and will be wanted by the community and will be participated in.